Smart decision from August Rasky to not let the D get set up, send that one right back over.
Right, very quick, and like you said, the free ball coming just over the net means that the defense for Minnesota didn't have much time to get back and get set. So the faster Rasky can go, puts her in a good position.
Back set to Pittman, the block was there. Martin trying to get turned around and does. Good hustle coming in, but another quick hit on the other side from Minnesota, and they pull within 2.
Pittman taking advantage of the teed up overpass, every middle's dream, and she takes advantage.
She's a player that Coach McCutcheon told us is really starting to believe that she can do all the things that he said I've known she's been able to do. But sometimes you gotta be able to believe it. Tip back and forth. That one falls for the Ducks.
The free ball falls. That's something, of course, Minnesota wants to fix, but there's that location for your free balls. You put it right over the net. The middle blocker doesn't really want to take it because they want to run their approach. In that situation, they probably should take it, but you want to put it somewhere where you have to communicate.
Out of the back, Samity. And the double block, not quite close enough. It falls in. And a point to the Ducks. We just saw Matt Ulmer on the sideline talking to his young freshman that came in.
For Minnesota, they just didn't get their hands over the net quick enough, and it just sneaks down the front.
Boy, and Lauren Page had enough on it as well. That's a pretty up by Nunaviller, and there's great hustle from McGraw. Both of these liberos working hard, and a tough angle for Jasmine Martin as it goes wide. And the Ducks up by 5, and Hugh McCutcheon wants a timeout.
I think the pressure for Oregon, just a little too much. You could see Minnesota maybe pressing a little, trying to go for shots that weren't there, and that's all due to the service pressure from the beginning from Oregon, and they continue to kind of keep that on them and keep Minnesota back on their heels.
Take a look at some numbers, Amy. In the most NCAA team championships, that would go to the Pac-12. How about 513 by conference? The next is the Big Ten, and then followed by the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC. But 513 championships. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, across the board, the amount of talent in these conferences is pretty fantastic.
And when you get into volleyball, it is really Pac-12. Right. It is Big Ten. And that's why this challenge is so much fun also, because they are the teams that you're going to see in the NCAA tournament going deep and going far. And both of these teams making it to the NCAA tournament last year. Oregon losing out in the second round. Hugh McCutcheon's team making it to the regional semifinal. And they lost to USC, a Pac-12 team. You see him talking to his team, and there are the numbers. So Oregon hitting better, serving a little better. Playing just a cleaner set so far.
Right, you can tell that Minnesota has had some miscommunication problems where they're just not gelling with each other on the court at this point, which will obviously come over time. But if you want to combat that, you need to talk more. So when you're not as comfortable, you've got to just talk all the time to ensure that everyone knows what's going on, and that will especially clear up those balls that, you know, are dropping in front of the 10-foot line.
It is their first road trip on the season. They have been at home. They're 5-0, and they've only given up 1 set on the year so far. As August Rasky steps back, and for the Ducks, they went to Nebraska for those first 2, then they played 4 in a row at home, and that's a good timeout for the Golden Gophers with Martin with the kill.
All right, for Minnesota, come right back out of the timeout, stick the pass, and run a play in system that you know you can get a kill on. For Oregon, they've just, I think what I like best about them is they came out, stepped on the floor playing at a high level. They were ready to play, probably because they've had to for the past couple weeks, be at their best. And so they learned how to compete and how to do it over a long period of time.
Yep, they've won 4 in a row. Here's Seliger Swinson to serve. Rasky to Page, the tip, and nobody there. She is so quick. Not the biggest stature for a hitter, but great hops, and her quickness makes up for it.
She elevates really well, and she's so powerful that as a defender, you're assuming she's going to hammer that ball, and then you see at the last second, she shows tip.
Ben Sickle back in, the redshirt sophomore. Played in 6 matches last year, but with the injury was able to take the medical red shirt, but the serve goes long, and so it'll go back to Minnesota.
And obviously that's a rare miss from Van Sickle, and Oregon has been serving really well, so you'll take that. However, Van Sickle had been so good. That was a big scoring rotation for Oregon, and as they're hitting that 20-point mark, just a couple of points in that rotation could have been the difference in this set.
Lauren Barnes with the serve back in. Vanderweide off the block. There's McGraw again, keeping it alive. Tough play by the defense, creating that opportunity. Minnesota not giving up.
No, and the middle back, left back, you see them, they're gonna be trying to talk to each other and scissor that ball, and they go right into each other as it just misses in the seam.
So wiping up the court a little bit as players have been diving and trying to.
Isn't that great to see? This is only set 1 and we've already got so much sweat, or you just want to stop the play. Either way, it works.
They want to break that rhythm potentially with Lauren Barnes back to serve. And I am so impressed with Cece McGraw, as Coach McCutcheon had told us. He said she just reads the game so well. Just a freshman. That's really the only piece that they lost. Rosano, their libero from a year ago, graduating, and she has stepped right in. Nice pass from Vanderweide. The quick to Gill. They really haven't gotten her going yet, but how about the middle right back at you?
Well, and you wonder, hey, why hasn't Samit Gill been really involved? If you look at that play, you see right there, she's got a double block in front of her on the 3. Clearly Minnesota is dialed in. They know Gill has had a couple matches where she's just been incredible.
Taylor Morgan with the finish, and the serve though from Barnes goes long, so break for the Ducks. We said that the middle might be an area where Oregon could take advantage, and obviously Minnesota read the scouting report. They know that's something they had to focus on, and they're doing a nice job.
Well, and in order to run your middle, you've got to be passing at a high percentage to get that ball up to the net consistently.
Big swing and a put away. Alexis Hart with the kill. All Big Ten member a season ago. She was second on the team at just under 4 kills a set. Here's McGraw with the serve. Vanderweide, hard off the block. Great hustle. Hart taking a little bit off. Out of the back. Roll shot from Hart. So we've seen the power in that time, taking some off, and Minnesota pulls within 1.
Coach McCutcheon off the bench, recognizing that big momentum shift as Minnesota has brought it back within 1. Made a huge play with some good defensive effort to bring this around.
Yes, Seliger Swinson had a big save on that one to keep it alive. Take a look at the ABCA coaches poll. Number 1, Minnesota, undefeated coming in. How about Wisconsin right up there? Another Big Ten foe. BYU, they just keep moving up. They're playing very well, your alma mater. And then Stanford in the 4th spot. Penn State, we're going to see those two battle it out in just a little bit right here. Texas right behind. A lot of those, the usual suspects. UCLA, USC. And Texas will be here this next Tuesday. Stanford's got a tough schedule coming up.
They do. And you look at all those first place votes, a lot of different teams. Clearly, it's anyone's game at this point. So early in the season, you don't know what you're expecting. And so a lot of these teams will say, hey, we want to make sure we're there in November. And so the best way to do it is to see what's going on and what your deficiencies are as a team, and to work those out so you can get better.
Now we mentioned 8 teams from the Pac-12 in the top 25. The Big Ten right behind with 7 teams. And it drops off just a little bit, but those are those 2 conferences, these 2 conferences. So I love the fact that they said, let's play each other. Let's see what we can do early on. And this is where you learn. Both of these coaches said that they'd rather know now.
Yeah,
what are some of their weaknesses? What are the things we need to work on? And they are both finding out from the schedules that they have put together. And Hugh McCutcheon, he said, it's still early. There's still a lot of work in progress for our team, but they like the preseason schedule that they put together. He said it's that balance. Both of these coaches saying, keeping their teams healthy and making sure they're not overtraining. You know, Matt Ulmer said, we're in the quarter system. We haven't even started classes yet, so we don't want to, they could be in the gym for very lengthy amounts of time. He said, you really have to balance it. And Minnesota out of that timeout. Good comeback. They go to Willow Johnson. Willow Johnson
Down the line, and you'd like to see her a little bit more. I think when Oregon's out of system, they rely so much on that outside rather than getting Willow Johnson the ball maybe a little slower because she's such a great outlet.
Outside, big swing and finish. The sophomore Stephanie Samity with the kill.
Beautiful play. That's the quick red set all the way out to the antenna for Samity. So she had one blocker up because it was so fast, just hammers it over the top.
Out of Claremont, Florida. Vanderweide, Hart off the block. Hart, that quick swing, but a pretty up from Van Sickle. And the whistle, they didn't like the double contact call. Then it's going to go to Minnesota, and we are tied up.
It was 16-20, and Minnesota made a run to push it back. And here we are again, like the beginning where they just traded side outs back and forth.
Coach McCutcheon going to his bench. Sarah Nielsen's going to come in, a sophomore who can also set for this team. We'll see if they decide to go that route. And also Paulina Schweider, freshman middle from Poland, number 18 for Minnesota.
I think they'll go with the blocking sub right here to try to get this point.
Slide play coming around Stone. Hart taking some off. Good effort from Nuneviller. And how about that? A broken play for the Ducks ends up a point.
Pretty long rally, great defensive effort, good read, and then just that off-speed shot again to the middle of the court. When you're playing middle back defense, you're all the way back on that back line, so moving forward becomes so difficult.
Selliger Swinson back in, as well as Samity. 2 points away, the Ducks, from taking set one. Minnesota right on their heels.
And you watch Minnesota, look at their serving or their passing lanes right here. A ton of open space there in the middle of the court.
Oh, and an untimely service error from Lindsay Vanderweide to tie it right back up.
Well, and that's a tough play when you get to the end of matches. You can't just lollipop it over. You've got to put a tough serve on these teams.
Jasmine Martin back in. Alexis Hart back to serve. 3 service errors for the Ducks. Down the line, and they'll say in for Veronica Stone as she came around.
Great set from August Rasky. The pass had actually pushed her closer to the antenna, so Stone didn't have a ton of room to hit into, but a perfectly placed set. Stone hammers it down the line.
Set point for the Ducks, a tough serve. Pass a bit off the mark. Martin off the block. Bump set, they'll go to her again. Close to the net, they'll say long, no touch, and set number 1 goes to the Oregon Ducks.
It was interesting to watch these teams get to know each other and really build that momentum, some high-level play towards the end of that set.
Back and forth, that's exactly what we expect. Set number 2 for you right after this on Pac-12 Network. For 1 Minnesota in our Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge. Set 2 moments away from potentially the Ducks going way up on number 1, and in big part because of Lauren Page. Amy, she was really playing well in set number 1.
Well, we said Lauren Page was a middle blocker last season, just switched to the outside hitter position, but was so good in this first set. Elevating well, making good choices, and that's all the outside hitter is about, is just knowing when to swing and when to keep it in play, and she did an incredible job, Paige.
Well, in Minnesota, they've had their blocks. They have been really anticipating the middles by Oregon. And so it's important that Lauren Page and some of the other hitters get going to try to open things up for the middle.
Exactly, and you could see how Page had 2 solid blockers up on her every single time she was able to swing at the ball. But 6 kills in 1 set, that's pretty good.
Not too shabby. 6'4" senior from Riverside, California, 13 starts a season ago. And coming into this one, hitting .231, so well above her average. She's one of 4 seniors on a team that has high expectations, but a team and a program that's been to the NCAA tournament now 7 years in a row. Talented recruit class by Matt Ulmer coming in, the freshman this year, the #4 recruit class in the nation. And set number 2 underway. And Hart, she's really had the big arm for Minnesota so far. They go to her immediately.
Exactly, and it was as if Hart just kind of in that first set took a couple rotations and then just came alive. An incredible, she was very instrumental in that comeback towards the end of set 1.
CeCe McGraw, the freshman libero, with a very tough serve, and somehow the Ducks keep it going. Hart rolls it over. Free ball to Minnesota. Oh, what a decision. And Nunaviller there with the pancake. Pittman again. Vanderweide, too much on it out of the back. It'll go to Minnesota.
And what a second play. Probably the best rally of the entire set. You can look at this. A lot of great defensive plays, scrappy defense.
Wow. Nunaviller, I love that she claps while she's still down on the floor because she knows she got that one. That was great.
It was a great up.
And I think Matt Ulmer is calling for a review. There was something he didn't like about that last play.
In that 20-point last play.
Some of our reviewable plays, if the ball's in or out, if the ball contacts a player, a net fault, a foot fault, or the attack line faults. And this is the first season that every single Pac-12 school has the review system, and you're seeing it more and more. It's becoming very popular, and sometimes I'm for it and sometimes I'm not.
I know, exactly.
It can change and shift the momentum of a match, though. There's no doubt about it. But so this one gets tipped around, and kind of wondering if he thought maybe there was a net violation. We'll have to wait and see. As he's still waiting for the review, our referees, Margie Ray, and up high, it's Kaylee Kimura.
Well, I think what's great, you look at these coaches after the challenge, and they're just taking that opportunity to talk to their team and to use it as a timeout and a way to help them along.
Looks like Margie has made her decision. It's going to stay the way it was with Minnesota. But you see something, or you think you see something, and at this point, why not? Try to stop the momentum, because Minnesota's really come out in this second set ready to go. McGraw, she is a tough server. Johnson in the middle, how about a triple block?
And there it is, starts with the serve, right? You go back, you serve a tough ball, it takes the team out of system, it really limits how many offensive options they have, and so you have that ability to get 3 blockers in the middle like Minnesota does there, and good things happen when you have a huge wall.
Yeah, you could see that the pass was not really right where Rasky needed it to be, as the roll shot from Page stays in. And finding the back line, Samity with the kill.
And Seliger Swenson, one of my favorite setters to watch in the country. Watch her move coming forward. She's just going to slide to get that ball back. Really goes against motion and gets a hole in the block.
Much better pass to Rasky that time. A free ball over from the swing of Page. Johnson with the tip. Hart, miss hit. Haven't seen many of those from her, but a break for the Ducks. They'll take it.
Well, I think both those plays right there are that we saw earlier, Willow Johnson, and then that one indicative of, hey, it's preseason right there, because especially Oregon trying to run that double quick, it hasn't been working. They're trying to get Willow Johnson involved more, but she's just a step off with the set.
Van Sickle with the serve. Bump set outside to Hart. She takes some off. Van Sickle out of the back. What a great option, and a little bit of miscommunication gets Oregon right back in this one.
You know, it's not many teams that have a defensive player being that backcourt option out of the pipe. You usually have maybe your 6th rotation outside hitter come in and hit those. So how fun for Oregon that they have a defensive player who's just so fantastic. She can do it all.
Yeah, they list Van Sickle at 5'9" as she serves that one just long, but she can get up. And again, she's not quite 100% because of the knee injury, but imagine when she's full force.
I know, that's scary.
What a great option she will be. 3-point Minnesota lead. There's Samity with the serve. Back set to Johnson off the block, the touch. It'll go to the Ducks. Willow Johnson, the junior from Paradise Valley, Arizona. Coming into this match, hitting .430. She's been impressive.
Right, so there's a player you look at and say, if she gets going, which she has this season so far, then that is going to change it all for Oregon. That's a huge, huge outlet.
On the dump, a good decision from Seliger-Swinson. Read that perfectly.
And watch Seliger-Swinson, both hands up as if she's going to set, and then at the last possible second, she drops and attacks. And that really fools the defense and the block into thinking she's going to set instead of attack.
Donna Rollins with the serve. Back set to Johnson, takes a little bit out. The bump set to Samity. Rasky. Good up. Big swing coming around. Reagan Pittman with the kill.
Pittman has a cannon for an arm. She gets up. If there's a hole in the block, it's going down. No chance to dig that ball. She hits with so much heat.
There's Rollins again. The floater to the back row. Vanderweide hard off the block. Making sure that one didn't have a chance.
Watch Vanderweide on this outside kill. She waits and is going to use the blocker's hands by hitting high and hard, expanding the court.
Testad with the service, and again, Seliger-Swinson finds an opening.
We've got two very active setters offensively. Seliger-Swinson showing that even when she's off the net, right, she's definitely an attack option. Can't take your eyes off the setter for a second.
Started every match last year and led the conference in assists per set. Vanderweide comes right back over. And how about start and finish by Ronica Stone? Got that one set up perfectly.
Right, because you're the one that did it. So yeah. Ronica Stone knows she better get that free ball pass perfect. She's going to get set behind the setter, is still able to work her timing and get up and get a nice clean kill.
Preseason All Pac-12 is Stone. A little bit of a miscue. That's Sheehan, number 4 for Minnesota, who's checked in. And they'll call the touch on that one, and it'll go to Minnesota.
Samity keeping that swing high. I like how these hitters have adjusted to the block in front of them. They're smarter. They're really using hands, hitting high and hard.
Seliger-Swinson. Rasky tries to dump it, and instead it's Taylor Morgan waiting for her in the middle. What a read by Morgan.
For sure, but if she's playing with Seliger-Swinson day in and day out in practice, doesn't surprise her one bit to have a setter attack the ball.
No doubt about it, and a timeout called here in set 2. It's a 5-point Minnesota lead over the Oregon Ducks.
Home of the Oregon State Beavers and the Oregon Ducks. You're watching Pac-12 Oregon.
My name is Clay Mortson. I'm the owner of Mortson Family Winery in Healdsburg, California. Currently, we produce a wine for the University of Oregon Alumni Association, and incredibly proud to be a part of the first ever Oregon alumni wines. You know, I see a lot of similarities to the pride of ownership of having your name on the back of your jersey and the name on my bottle of wine. And I think it's just that spark in people that you want to go out and do your best. Because when you're representing not just yourself, but your family and your name. And I look at winemaking the exact same I did as at the football field. You know, having an Oregon degree means an incredible amount, and it's a huge part of my success today. I feel like I was incredibly prepared for the business world, you know, with my marketing and finance degrees. And, you know, it's why we're successful today. My name is Clay Mortson, class of 1997. Go Ducks.
You're watching Pac-12 Oregon.
Coming up next, number 5 Penn State in town to take on number 4 Stanford. There's some of the Stanford volleyball team watching this one as these teams will switch up and continue to play throughout this weekend. But you don't want to miss it. We'll have it for you coming up next right here on Pac-12 Network. Krista Blank, Amy Gant with you, set number 2, and number 1 Minnesota coming out, and they're hitting better. They're also blocking better, and that's making a difference. They're up by 5.
I think that's what's great about good teams, right? You have to come in and play what's in front of you and then learn. You've got to learn. You've got to make adjustments. And credit Minnesota for doing a nice job to make those adjustments coming into this second set.
See what they can do here, and they immediately go outside to Ronica Stone, and it works. Good timeout for the Ducks.
Ronica Stone so good behind the setter. You love the slide set because you can pick it off at any time, and on a player like Stone who elevates so well, she really has good court vision.
Quick in the middle and able to hang is Taylor Morgan. She is so fast.
She is, and isn't it awful that you say a 6-foot, you know, player is undersized?
Yeah.
This is where the game has gone. But Morgan at 6 foot in the middle really hangs in there, where there's others, like she's always going to be going up against maybe 6'4", 6'5", but she moves well and she jumps really well, and she's a smart blocker, and so she's in there for a reason. She's very, very good.
Yeah, Coach McCutcheon said she can touch 10-8, 10-9, you know, at 6 feet, and so her quickness and ability or athleticism really makes up for maybe the lack of height. He was able to play her there, the redshirt junior, Blaine, Minnesota. There's Barnes again. Tip from Page. Back set to Samity. Page again, hoping for a touch. They'll say she'll get it. Minnesota not agreeing, and I won't be surprised if we are going to see a review, and we do. As Hugh McCutcheon says, I don't know. I don't think there was. And they're gonna take a look to see if there was a touch. Let's see if we can even see it right here.
That's how high these players jump.
Yeah.
Right out of frame.
Couldn't see it from there, but immediately Rasky asking for the touch.
Right.
But immediately Minnesota saying, no, there was no
Off
touch.
the bench. We can get a good look here.
Oh.
Did we see a pinky?
Wow, maybe. And Samity did not act as if she had made any contact, but.
Well, and that's a tough play. That's when you kind of look at your coach and tell them, like, hey, yes or no.
Go ahead and pull out that green card or not.
Well, exactly, because in this situation, Minnesota is the one that had the momentum.
Yeah.
So you have to be really smart when you choose to stop play, because yes, you may get the ball back, but you also killed the momentum and you have to earn it back.
Margie Ray, one of our officials, Kaylee Kimura, the other here tonight. And looking for the contact. So set 1, it was Oregon out with a fairly decent lead, and then it was Minnesota coming back in that one, and it was back and forth and just a 2-point win for the Ducks. But this one now, you have Minnesota with a decent 4-point lead now, and now you have to say, okay, can Oregon claw their way back in? And
I think what's great to see about both these teams is that neither has looked too worried when they've been down, which is great. You want to play the same regardless of what the score is on the board, and everyone seems pretty relaxed. We haven't seen either team go off the rails and give up maybe 5 points. They're kind of trading sets back and forth.
Matt Ulmer talking to Willow Johnson. They looked pretty relaxed. Some smiles.
Well, that's something last year Coach Ulmer really wanted to get his team to, you know, relax, have fun, play hard, but you've got to be confident and trusting and loose if you want to go out and play your best volleyball. So he encourages dancing.
He does, and I like that. Yeah, he said, you know, the big goal, they don't worry about the RPIs and all the numbers and rankings and everything at this point. They're just looking to, what do we need to do to go deep into the postseason? You know, and what is it that we have to do? He said you have to trust your teammates, and you also have to trust, he has to trust the talent that he has on the floor, and that's sometimes difficult for a coach to just sit back and let them do what they do.
Well, I think what's both Pac-12 and Big Ten, you get into season and it is a grind, and you've got to be ready to play your best night in and night out. It's unlike any other conference in the country, these two, and so it's very, very different.
So the call will stay with no touch.
Call's changed with Minnesota getting that ball back.
Yeah. So no touch. And a 4-point Minnesota lead. Make that 6. Yep. So switch it up. Worth a look, that's for certain. Serve from Barnes. A tough one in the pass off the mark, but Rasky, perfect read.
And that was executed so well that you have to wonder, was that pass off the mark? It looked like a pretty nice play to push her over, and that pass is already on its way over the net, and because of that, she just helped it along. Really great time to attack.
Hart taking some off, Nunaviller right there. Page into the block, and it goes down for the point.
Samedi, a great blocker with a lot of good range. Watch her push back towards the middle of the court. She's able to take away that seam, get that block.
Taylor Morgan will get a little breather. Slide to Samit Gill, the touch and the point. The 6'3" senior from Elk Grove, California.
And Samit Gill has been having a fantastic preseason, hitting .541 coming into this match. However, that's only her second kill of the night, hitting negative up to this point. So Minnesota finding a way to shut Gill down. If she can get going, that's going to help Oregon out a lot.
Well, and Coach Ulmer said it. He said she has to get going in those first couple of sets to her, or she may not get the sets back.
That's a good point. A lot of times, and he knows because he was a setter. Like,
I may not give it to you again.
Right. Setters kind of forget about middles sometimes. You have to establish and make your presence known early.
Both teams block, getting it done. A good movement by the block there, and it's put down by Oregon.
Gill working hard on the side. You see Vanderweide in on that one. Gill has to go back and forth, antenna to antenna, but she's there and she's closing the block.
And Sickle with the serve. Pittman, big swing. Reagan Pittman, not only does she have that kind of power with the attack, but she's had some great defensive plays as well, getting her hand on a lot.
She moves well, but the power behind it. You know, there's that first line of defense, the block. If you can get it through that, you've got to get it through the defense. I think if it gets through the block, it's not coming up. She hits
not much
so
chance,
hard.
Johnson had to hurry. It grazes McGraw, and it'll be a point to Oregon.
Anytime you have that left-handed attacker there on the right side, it's so hard to read, especially that line shot, because you lose sight of her approach when you're the defender because it's kind of masked by the blockers.
Boy, a tough pass for Seliger-Swinson, but she's able to get it to Hart for the finish.
Seliger-Swinson gets under the ball so well, moves and pushes that out, regardless of how she has to recover bodily afterwards. I mean, she's rolling all over.
She couldn't have gotten any closer unless she was just sitting on the floor for that one. Really impressive. Here's Rollins. Back set to Johnson. She had something on it. She's really been fine in the far corner, and there's just not been anybody back there.
Well, and 2 quick kills from Willow Johnson, kind of finding her groove a little bit. Oregon, if they can start attacking antenna to antenna, then that block from Minnesota that's been so well set up gets a split, and there's going to be some holes.
Joust at the net. Vanderweide. Solo block from Stone, and she shuts down Reagan Pittman. Ducks just clawing their way back in. Pittman with the tip, goes right back. Quick swing and approach, and a break for Minnesota as Sheehan hit that one long, but a net violation for the Ducks.
I think you watched Seliger Swenson set that ball, and because she faked like she was going to swing, you saw Ronica Stone jump with her, just a little off balance. When you have that setter who is an offensive threat, it just makes it so hard to make those quick decisions.
Wow, the slide. Stone and Rasky enjoying it.
Both teams kind of raising the bar a little bit with a hammer. Such a swing from Stone.
Ducks back within 3. Back set to Samity and gets some help from the net.
Samity found that super small seam, bounced it off the net, and Minnesota able to capitalize because they were out of system. It was a poor pass that they only had one option.
Wiping up some sweat again from the court. Safety first, I always say. Yeah. The Ducks making sure they keep everything. No injuries either. You don't want anything crazy to happen this time of year.
And if it stops momentum, that's helpful too.
Whatever it takes. Rasky, back set, roll shot. What a play from Stone. She's really mixing up her game.
She's mixing up her game, and that's fantastic because she'd been hammering a couple times. But if you look at how Ronica Stone, the position she was in, the pass was off. That was clearly going to be a tip, and the defense for Minnesota can dial in on that quicker and get on it.
Short serve from Stone, and punching it over is Sheehan. Quick hard swing from Page, and a net violation on Minnesota. And the Ducks pull within 2.
Now we've had a couple of net plays on both sides, and that just means your block's just pressing a little too much. You're trying to move quick laterally and maybe not getting in great position, and so that's when you get caught, whether on your way down or on your way up.
Hugh McCutcheon wants the timeout with a 2-point lead over the Ducks. Top 2 conferences, the Big Ten in several teams in the top 25 poll. As you can see that we said 7 different teams. Minnesota number 1, Wisconsin right behind them. There's Penn State, and then Nebraska, Illinois, Purdue, and Michigan all in the top 20. So tough competition.
That's fantastic. Look at that.
So impressive.
Week in and week out. These athletes emotionally have to be as solid as they are physically, because and if you get a good look at Pac-12 as well, every single night you have to be at your best, and it takes a lot out of you.
And it's not too far away as you take a look at the Pac-12 teams, 8 teams in the top 25, 2 teams receiving votes, Arizona and Oregon State. So 10 teams within the Pac-12. As 9 teams made the NCAA tournament last year, and they would love to see that many or more go again this year.
I think that's what's so great about both these conferences, because it brings in an added challenge that maybe other conferences don't have. And while you do want to go in, and every conference you have to be at your best to win, But playing in the Big Ten and the Pac-12, it just is a toll on your body, and so you have to be able to work that into how you're training throughout the season so that each team is at their best come November.
Hitting percentage up for Minnesota this set. Their block just a little bit better as well. But Oregon not giving up as the overpass and the put away by Gill, and now they pull within one.
Well, and Ronica Stone has been very important in that comeback. Gets 3 big kills, a block, and then comes back with the forcing the overpass.
Short serves from Stone. Oh, what that quick set can do in the middle to Taylor Morgan.
Well, you watch how quick Morgan is. She is in the air before the setter even gets the ball. When you touch 10-8, you just can hang out up there for seconds at a time waiting for the ball to get down.
It's really something.
Not something the rest of us
yes, that's what I've
have
heard.
that ability.
Heard you can. Richard Jr. Glad to have her back. She was out hurt in the 2015 season as Lauren Page gets the touch.
And that shot right there is not a shot a first-year outside hitter can usually do. That is a tough shot to make, waiting for that set that's going tight and just wiping it off the hands of the block. Very smart play.
Back set, big arm. Samity with the kill.
I think for Oregon, they have got to keep Minnesota out of system, because when they do get a pass, watch how fast that offense is. It is on their second step, so quick, tons of big seams in the block, and it's very tough to defend.
Yeah, everybody that faces Minnesota talks about the fast offense. They better start thinking about the block as well, because the block has been solid for the Golden Gophers.
Alexis Hart all over the slide. It took a long time to develop because Rasky was pushed far, and so Hart really didn't have to move that much. She just waited till the right time.
Rasky to Vanderwide out of the back, and it is in. And Oregon pulls back within 2.
Well, and once Minnesota, right, has hit that 20-point mark, now's the time. Oregon has got to finish that comeback, really get their way back in. Because if they just trade side outs, it's going to be over before they know it.
Van Sickle, she's been good. Tough pass to handle, but somehow Minnesota does. I don't know how Seliger Swinson stayed out of the net. And on top of it, she gets a perfect set to Samity.
Well, you look at Vanderwide, it was all over that set, trying to get that as an overpass. Seliger Swinson, terrific hands.
I can't believe she didn't dump it as well. You can't blame Vanderwide for that one, I don't think. Oh, the tip. And not able to save it. Oregon stays alive.
Oregon keeps it within 2. Nuneviller needs to put a tough position ball. And you look at Minnesota, they leave a huge gap in the middle of the court, kind of daring you as a server to serve it.
Hart down the line, and Johnson saves it. But Hart just too much.
What a save. Willow Johnson using those long arms to get a ball that was already well over the net. But then Hart comes in, turns. What a save.
Wow, kept that out of the antenna.
And there's the finish. You've got a big seam. Hart can hit down the line or cross court.
They went right back to her. Vanderwide off the block. It comes back over. The tip. The save. Vanderwide again. This time big swing. The block. And the Ducks pull within 2.
Great
defense
play
on both sides, Amy. Really something.
And it's so fun because these teams are very terminal. They've got big guns, and so we don't see a ton of really long, scrappy rallies. But when we do, they are absolutely fantastic. Both teams working so hard for every point.
Pittman, and there's the block again. Stone and Vanderwide getting it done.
And this is the rotation that Oregon wants to be in to make a comeback. They've got their best server back there trying to get them points, and Clearly, Minnesota wants to ice her a little bit.
Yep, timeout called by the Golden Gophers as they hang on to a 1-point lead. Both of these teams early on picked third in the preseason conference. You see the Pac-12 preseason poll. Stanford picked to win the Pac-12 this year. They did it a season ago, followed by USC. They've started off very well, although they ran into that tough BYU team that's on fire. And they're the Oregon Ducks in the 3 spot. UCLA, Colorado. The Washington State playing well right now. Utah in the 8 spot. Arizona. Oregon State, Arizona State. It's going to be here before you know it. There's a few more non-conference matches as Oregon, they will have to face Penn State here during this challenge. They're going to go to Hawaii and play Hawaii twice, and then it's Pac-12 season. The good thing for the Ducks, they're at home for the first 4. Yeah, USC, a loss, a sweep for BYU over USC. So
USC still looks really, really good.
They do. They definitely do. Lots of changes, lots of new coaches, young talented players coming in. It's always an exciting year. Every year, a different year.
Well, in the conference season, I just get so excited for that because night in and night out, you don't know what you're going to get. And you look down at the depth of talent all the way down. I mean, last year, 9 teams made the tournament, so it's pretty fantastic.
I mean, I think we say it almost every year. You see some of the Penn State players watching as they've made their way here to Stanford, California. But we say it every year. There are no gimmies. There absolutely are not. You cannot look past anyone in the Pac-12. It's going to be tough. Sometimes potential back-to-back situations. They definitely play back-to-backs in the Big Ten, and they know how that feels. And out of that timeout, Stone, the slide, and we are tied 22 apiece.
Who else do you want in the front row for Oregon? Veronica Stone has been so good in this second set behind the setter. She gets another one.
Tastad with the service. Pittman tries the tip. What a beautiful tip she makes into that front corner, and a nice hustle from Nunaviller, but she could not get there.
No, she could. She was just there 20 minutes early waiting for that ball. It was such a good read, and she read it so quickly. It almost was too much momentum getting there. She couldn't quite control it.
Couldn't control it as they're wiping the court again. A substitution, Jasmine Martin checks in.
And that's when, how amazing that you are so good at reading that you can get there well before the ball.
Vanderweide, little hesitation, hangs, and then puts it down. Tied back up.
Oregon really being side out tough as they've been trying to come back here as we get a good look at that perfect pass, an in-system play. Vanderweide using that quick arm swing to get right there in that corner.
So set number 2, tied at 23 apiece. It's like deja vu from set number 1.
It is, but this time Oregon's the one fighting their way back in.
Yeah. Back set to Samity. Nunaviller, perfect pass. Tipping it down is Stone. And Oregon will go back for set point.
Stone again. Off one foot, but this time she stays in front of the setter, allowing her to see the ton of court in front of her. Just puts it right over the top.
Trying to tip it. Zellweger swimps in and trying to keep it alive, but can't. It's Minnesota. And set number 2, what a comeback is going to the Oregon Ducks. You don't want to go anywhere. We're going to take a break and go to our intermission report. We'll be back after that.
You're watching Pac-12 Oregon.
Time in set number 2, and they come back and win it to go up 2-0 here at Stanford. Krista Blank and Amy Gant with you as we take a look at the numbers from this one. And Amy, really impressive comeback as the Ducks were down quite a bit. Minnesota seemed to be in charge.
And I think Minnesota is still kind of shaking their heads. How do we lose that? Oregon with 7 of the last 9 points to take that set. really surprising Minnesota, but I think Oregon came back. They served tough. They had some big-time blocks and some huge kills, especially from Ronica Stone.
Yeah, the attacking errors, just a few too many for Minnesota as you see the numbers, and it's a well-balanced attack by Oregon. That's a big plus for them. They have 6 players that average 2+ kills per set, so good balance for Matt Ulmer's team.
Yeah, it's really hard to dial in when they're in system, and so that's when the serve becomes so important, and Minnesota really controlled it that first part of the second set. They are going to definitely want to come out here in the third serving tough. See
if they can make some adjustments and put this into extra sets. Set 3 is underway. Gill in the middle, and a net violation against Gill. She's had a tough outing. She comes into this one and just hitting so well in the season, but she's had a struggle.
Well, and interesting, like you said, ooh, good touch there. But as they're going to Gill, really fast to start it out. Clearly that was something they talked about in between the sets, is try to get both middles going. Gill is someone who's been good for us. Let's get her worked.
And got to give a lot of credit to Minnesota as they've really shut her down for the most part, but that time the slide seems to work.
3 sets, is it, to Gill to start off this third set? Certainly that was in the plan.
Yeah, they want to get her going. A lot of credit, though. Minnesota has done a nice job on both middles, really. I mean, they've really had the block up at the net.
They controlled the serve, and Oregon struggled.
And the ace, McGraw, was back there. She's watched it hit the back line, and a tough serve.
Van Sickle.
Yep.
So great. And she uses all that court. She doesn't even come close to that end line. She is contacting the ball so far back in the court that she allows angles and floating and movement, and clearly the passing is really struggling to keep up with that ball.
Yeah, her serve is causing some problems. She leads the team in service aces.
Earlier this year, she had 9 aces in one match.
A career high for her in their win against Portland State. There's a good read by Samity.
Samity will take it, even though she could just barely reach to touch that ball. Minnesota gets the ball back, and another opportunity to kind of take control in this match, because their backs are against the wall. They've got to fight their way out.
Serve from Barnes, who's come back in. Back set to Johnson, right down the line. McGraw was right there, but so much on it.
Willow Johnson with that fast, quick set hammer down the line. Every single time.
Brooke Nunaviller back. Freshman libero from Chandler, Arizona. She's been so good as trying to tip it back with Vanderweide, and it goes wide. Hugh McCutcheon up, trying to get his team up, trying to make a big comeback if possible. Rasky, what a tough set all the way back to Johnson. Vanderweide this time. And the touch. Minnesota getting some momentum. They tie it up. They go to Samity again, and we haven't really seen her get going yet, but she is such a big weapon for them.
Well, it's interesting that as an opposite, she's their outlet, right? She is the one they set when they're out of system, when the play is off the net, and she does a nice job mixing the ball up, keeping it in play, and getting those kills.
Block there to stop Vanderweide as Johnson saw an opening in the corner, but too much on it. And Minnesota will take the 1-point lead.
That was a very, very quick set. I think a little too quick, too low for Willow Johnson. She couldn't get on it quick enough.
Pittman with the set. Found Rollins, and there's that option out of the back. Van Sickle, all 5'9" of her.
5'9" DS just flying out of the back row. Such a great option as you watch her coming in. Beautiful swing.
And another beautiful pass from Nunaviller, the libero. And We're tied up again. I love watching Van Sickle out of the back.
Well, and you talked about Nuneviller and also Tastad as well. These two freshmen that have come in and are seeing significant time. Great dig as we talk about her, but playing in that Nebraska environment where it's very intense. Coach Ulmer said, my freshmen were the two calmest ones. They were the ones that were able to kind of handle the situation well, and he was really excited to see their poise.
Net violation on the Ducks. Slide play right at me. Thank you, Amy. Wasn't quite sure where that was going to go. You were right there, though, Amy.
Good, thanks.
All middle blocker of you.
That quick slide, though. Stone really, and how great that they're able to use that now that they're in the 5-1 for Oregon. Really highlights Stone's ability to go off one foot again and again and again.
And again, right there. She's got that one down.
Well, especially out of system and in transition plays. Even when she doesn't get a great approach on the ball, she can switch it at the last second and go off one foot because she moves so well.
And dropping that one in, the service ace from Vanderweide. Fourth on the season.
And all these Oregon players really using as much of the court as they can to get some nice float on the ball.
Rollins off the block. She hasn't been the main go-to, and so Oregon looked like they weren't quite decisive enough on what they wanted to do with her on that one.
Now Rollins just a freshman as well, but she jumps well, is able to find the seam on that particular play.
Alexis Hart back in, number 19 from Minnesota. Here's Rollins with the serve. Freshman out of Carrollton, Texas. Wow. Stone. She's fired up.
Yikes. Veronica Stone. I bet Minnesota very happy to see her rotate to the back court. And this is where Oregon wants to get Gill going so they don't miss a beat. But how do you stop Veronica Stone?
Hart off the block. Vanderweide out of the back. Minnesota keeps it going. Tough pass for Rasky, but they keep it alive. And just out of position there was Alexis Hart. Point to the Ducks, and now up by 3.
You know, Hart's done a really nice job kind of hitting the ball, especially when she's in system, but she struggled a bit when it's out of system. She's a little early on her way down and has mishit a couple of balls that she really hasn't got her approach worked in with. But when she does, watch out.
Had a good swing there. Nice up from Vanderweide, and trying to save it was Stone, but instead it'll go back the other way.
Minnesota keeping this close. They've done a good job staying side out tough. Every time Oregon has kind of gotten the ball back, they're right there with a quick kill to keep this within 2.
And a break for the Ducks.
You can't plan that.
You really can't.
Paige will take it.
The pass off the mark, there was really no setup. And Paige using the net to drop that one into the corner. She'll take it. Lauren Page, a senior from Riverside. There's Rasky, overpass. And a net violation, they're gonna call it on Willow Johnson. That's one of those where it's coming and you just can't help yourself, right? I mean, the momentum.
It looked like as she was jumping, right, her right hand hits the top of the tape.
2-point Ducks lead. Seliger Swinson with the serve. Johnson out of the middle, it comes right back over. They'll go to her again. Taking some off of it. Great hustle by the Golden Gophers, but they cannot get there.
Good pursuit defense. You like to see the whole team over there in the corner. But again, Willow Johnson with 2 different swings in that rally to finally get one to fall.
Here's Brooke Van Sickle. She's done some damage in a lot of different areas today. Hart. Wow, you said it, when it's on and it's pretty, and well, that was pretty.
And her approach, I love watching, if you watch her arms, her gather to really get as much momentum as she can. She gets a lot out of her approach.
Junior out of Kansas City, Missouri. Coach McCutcheon says that she's got a hammer. She hits a heavy ball.
Quick arm.
Lauren Barnes. Johnson again, off the block. And a free ball to the Ducks.
To the setter.
Vanderwide off the block, out of bounds. A perfect setup for Oregon.
Well, never do you want your setter taking a free ball. But Willow Johnson steps in to set that ball, and Oregon expands their lead, is up 3.
Back set, Samity. Oh, Rasky tracks that one down. Multiple players diving, and they cannot get back.
And that middle of the court for Minnesota, really a trouble spot at this point. They're struggling to get those balls up that land just right there in the middle of the court.
And a timeout called as Hugh McCutcheon wants to talk to his team. The Ducks extending their lead, trying to finish this off in 3. Can they do it? We'll find out.
I pledge
to treat everyone with respect
and dignity.
I will not tolerate discrimination
or harassment of any kind.
I will speak up,
stand up
whenever I know discrimination
is happening. And I will stand up,
get up, rise up
for victims.
Take the pledge.
Take the pledge.
Take the pledge at risetowin.org.
Sunday on The Drive, we're taking a closer look at OSU, UCLA, and USC.
Running back, tight end, safety.
The Drive, Sunday at 9 on Pac-12 Network. Download and watch the latest episode anytime on Pac-12 Now. Saturday, catch the Ducks, Huskies, Beavers, and Cougars as they face off against non-conference opponents. Coverage starts next Saturday at 10 with the pregame, only on Pac-12 Network.
Back at Stanford, and it's the Oregon Ducks up 2-0 and a 14-10 lead over Minnesota. Krista Blank, Amy Gant with you. And Amy, Minnesota was in control for the majority, I'd say, of the second set, and then it was a great comeback by Oregon. But Minnesota's looked a little flat in this one, only down 4 though.
Right, and if, the first set, second set is any indication, nobody's celebrating yet. We know there's a lot of volleyball to be played. Both these teams have been trading momentum. And it could go either way. For Oregon, they just want to stay tough. They want to keep winning that service battle. And Minnesota, they want to find their mojo again. And it's there, and it's been there, especially as we saw in the comeback in set 1.
And I mean, this would be a big win for Oregon. They're ranked 18th. They're playing the #1 team in the nation. To get a win against them. And it's been a while since the Ducks have been able to take a win over the top seed.
Right, and they certainly have been testing themselves this season, not afraid to play the best. They're playing at a high level, and they're really doing a nice job.
The last time the Ducks got a win over #1, it was Penn State in the national semifinal in 2012. They went on to the national final to face Texas and could not get the victory in that one, but it's been quite some time for them. So this would be an incredible momentum builder at this time. And again, it's that time of year where all these teams are really still trying to figure out what's working, what's not. Right. What do we got to do to get better? And Minnesota came out of that last time out and said, we're not done yet.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone knew that they would come back. Oregon knew that Minnesota would come back.
Only down 1 with McGraw back serving. First team All-American out of high school. Using the net. Back set and in. It's Samity tying it up.
Samity again and again proving she's that go-to player for Minnesota, can get the job done in a variety of circumstances.
You said it, no celebrating yet, because the 4-point lead's not nearly enough against a team like Minnesota, and they have climbed back in this, tying it up 14 apiece here in set 3. Head coach Hugh McCutcheon in his 7th season as the head coach of the Golden Gophers. 5 starters back from a season ago, making it to the regional semifinal. Let's take a look at what he's done. He's been a big part of the national team, especially on the men's side, and he was a former volleyball player as well. He's from New Zealand, originally part of the national team, played at BYU, but he coached national team play. Then he got on into the women's side and just kind of kept going.
I mean, how amazing to be able to coach at the highest level, both men and women. Getting a gold medal in 2008, as we remember in Beijing, such an emotional moment, and then in London to get the silver with the women's team. Just an incredible coach. He's got a great volleyball mind, that just such a high volleyball IQ, and he's very well respected, and his players love playing for him. Just fantastic.
Yeah, he's going to be inducted into the International Volleyball Hall of Fame in November. He's just one of 5. It's in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and that's a great accomplishment, and it shows you what he's been able to do. And then he goes to Minnesota and takes over there for Mike Hebert, who had just built an incredible program. And there's a lot of pressure when you take over for such a legend type coach. But he's doing okay here in his 7th season. That's for certain. Tied up in set 3, 14 apiece. Oregon up 2-9. Hoping for a sweep in Minnesota, trying to stop it. Johnson out of the back, and it goes in.
Willow Johnson doing a lot better in this 3rd set, kind of finding that relationship. And anytime you have quick hitters, whether it's a middle, whether it's a right side, that setter, middle, right side relationship, so important. And it takes a while to work out because you have to really read each other really well.
Rollins down the line. Adana Rollins, the 6-foot freshman, Texas Gatorade Player of the Year a season ago.
And what a play. You saw Rasky jumping with the setter. So 0 blockers up for Rollins, who takes advantage.
Vanderweide finding the back line.
Vanderweide does a nice job keeping that high swing, just attacking those corners. She hits a heavy, almost a flat ball, but she tattoos that back line, and it's really tough to play defense back there.
Quick approach and finish. Adana Rollins.
Well, Oregon being smart, putting the ball on Rollins when she's in the front row to try to take her out of system. She passes that ball perfectly, no problem, gets up to get that kill.
6 rotation player, and she's been playing very well. Going outside this time, Lauren Page with the kill. So many options for the Ducks.
And they use all of them as well. A lot of players with averaging 2 kills per set.
Samik Gill up front. Short serve from Stone. Hart at the block and too far off the net. The kill ties it up.
Hart getting on that ball quick, and the block for Oregon just not pressing over as fast as they need to.
Kill leaders, 3 in double digits for the Ducks. Samity with 11. A couple others for Minnesota not far behind. Rasky right at Samity. What a soft touch from Lauren Page, reading that one.
Hart had it. She read it all the way, but watch Page put that right over the top of the block. Not a lot of room to get a defensive play under there.
1 point Oregon lead.
Well, and here we are approaching that 20-point mark. With every single set so far, There's been a lot going on once we hit 20 in those last 5 points. A lot of these teams in practices, you'll play little 5-point games because those last 5 points are so important in your execution and keeping the ball in play and making good choices.
Hart, Johnson tried to keep it going, could not do it. And it's tied up once again.
Good effort. Willow Johnson trying to come up with that ball. We've seen her do it before. She can get those, but here we are, tied again at 18.
What an angle and a tough shot from Lauren Page. But the fact that Oregon's mixing things up so much, it's hard to know, is she gonna tip? Is she gonna go with the full swing?
Right, and we really haven't seen her hammer that inside sharp cross-court shot. So can't overstate enough that transition from middle to outside, so challenging. And Paige has done all the things that you want in an outside hitter. Mixed up your shots, made good decisions.
Hart finds that back line.
That's a nice play right there. Very quick combination where you have one quick hitter going in, drawing the blockers, and then the outside hitter right on top of that, hitting over in the high seam.
She ties it up, she'll get a rest as Lauren Barnes comes in to serve. Sophomore, defensive specialist. Johnson tips it up. Good hustle from Samity to keep it going. Johnson again, this time cross court. The block, Samity far off the net, and they just tipped it down.
Yeah, it's a very tough play from Samity. She's out of position. The ball's behind her head. Just really tough to keep that in play.
Ducks with 20. And there's a double block right back at you from Minnesota.
Minnesota's been there the whole time. Vanderweide had been hitting really high and deep. That time she wanted to crush a seam that clearly was just not there.
20 apiece. And McGraw, give her an ace. What a tough serve. And now Minnesota goes up.
The freshman stepping up there. Nice serve to give her team a lead as she keeps putting the ball right in that cross-court slot.
What a perfect set from Rasky to Stone.
Well, everyone in the gym knows that if Oregon gets that pass up to the net, Stone is going to go behind the setter, get set, and get a kill.
And it's interesting coming into this one, Coach Ulmer told us that August Rasky, the setter, really had a good rhythm going with Samit Gill, but this match, it's really been Rasky and Stone.
Yep, you never know when it's your time. You got to be ready.
It was tied, but only momentarily. That block goes out of bounds, and now Minnesota up by 1. Vanderweide had something on that. Barnes was there. Rollins with the tip. Out of the back, Van Sickle. Rollins. The Ducks keep it going. Rollins, one more time.
What a play. Rollins stepping up 3-4 times. She'll just keep attacking high, deep. A big point for Minnesota and big emotional win for them as well. You can see how much that one meant. They've got confidence. They've got all the momentum. They want to close this one out.
Up by 2. Donna Rollins, just a freshman, getting it done. Let's take a look at some of the national players of the year. Catherine Plummer at Stanford last year winning this. Will Height from Minnesota in 2016. And there's Samantha Bricio from USC. How about Micah Hancock? She wasn't so bad. I mean, pretty much it's every other year. It's either Pac-12 or it's the Big Ten. Krista Van Zandt of Washington, Elena Bergsma from Oregon, Alex Jupiter, can't forget about her, Carly Lloyd. So many teams represented, but 6 of the last 8 coming from the Pac-12. That's really impressive.
It is just the type of play and what the players that this type of gauntlet produces, right?
Yeah.
You're playing night in and night out at such a high level. It develops players. That's what's so fun to see these players preseason as we get a good look at Penn State and Stanford coming up in just after this match, but what they turn into after they go through those tough seasons, and come November, the quality of play is just amazing.
Number 4 and number 5 teams coming up next. You don't want to go anywhere. Although the way it's looking now, this one could keep going a little longer. Minnesota's trying to make sure it does, up by 2 here in set 3.
Critical right here. You wonder what Oregon's going to do if they get a pass. Most likely they're going to run that slide back to Ronica Stone, but they've got to get that pass.
And you were right. And Pittman's there with the tip. Samity. This is going to be tough to save and cannot clear the net. And Minnesota is at set point.
Starts with that tough serve. Samity in good position. A nice hard serve.
Nunaviller, nice pass. Wow, down that line. I give CeCe McGraw credit for even getting in front of that and trying to save it.
It's when you dive out of the way when you see Ronica Stone popping up. But that's the play that Oregon wanted coming out of the break, and they didn't get it due to the pass. Now they've got to really fight their way back to avoid a side out from Minnesota.
Set point number 2, Rollins. Nunaviller keeps it going. Out of the back, right at us. Vanderweide. Not done yet.
Transition play opportunity for Oregon, and they get it.
Minnesota wants a timeout. Hanging on to this 1-point lead as Hugh McCutcheon wanting his team to finish this off. Try to push this one to a 4th. For the Ducks, they have a lot of options. One of them today has definitely been Willow Johnson.
Willow Johnson a little slower getting started, but especially in that second set and the start of this third has been really, really good running those quick balls, especially that hammer down the line. She's got such a tough line shot. They can get her the ball as much as possible. She really opens up the court.
Yeah, she's been so good. Willow Johnson, the lefty, the junior. 30 matches last year. She had 19 starts, so not a full-time starter a season ago. This is an Oregon team that has 4 starters back, but they graduated Maggie Scott, who was one of the setters. They ran more of a 6-2 last year. Taylor August, she was their kills leader, graduating her. And then Alex Honar was their starting libero. So some key positions and making some changes, but the main hitters really, other than Taylor August, right back, and Willow Johnson becoming, just taking on a bigger role this year.
And you can see the running that 5-1 offense for Oregon. They want to get the rhythm, you know, a little cleaner, and that definitely will come. But right here, they've got to stop Minnesota, who just needs one play to win this third set.
Set point number 3. They try the slide with Pittman. The block from Oregon stopping him. And we are tied up.
And that's an interesting choice, I think, for Minnesota to go back to Pittman, who's been very, very good. But if you look on the outside, you know, Rollins has been on fire, especially this last half of this third set.
They go back to Rollins. A tip. Stone is there. There's Page with the tip. And it falls in. And now it is set point Oregon. And match point, Oregon.
And that's shocking. Minnesota unable to put the ball down, can't put together, you know, that offense. Give it up for the Oregon defense, who's been relentless, popping balls up and continuing to fight to get these points back. Their backs have been against the wall.
Hugh McCutcheon wanting to challenge that last one. And I'm not totally certain if maybe he's questioning did it land in for certain on that sideline. So we'll have to see as Margie Ray will take a look at the review.
And it stops play.
Yes.
Stops either way, if this is in or out.
Right. Very tough. We're blocked out a little bit by Samity on that one.
Right, and for Minnesota, we can get a good look on this side. So we get to watch a little more of the play to see that tip from Paige. Both teams kind of trading tips.
The emotion by Oregon, Nunaviller in particular, and she had a very good look and angle on it. She believed it was in. So it'll be interesting to see, though, if we're able to get a good enough view to be able to say, yep, absolutely it was in or it was out.
Regardless, I think it's a good choice for McCutcheon to challenge this because it acts as a timeout, right? It ices everything, reminds them, hey, we need one play, come back here, because all that momentum, you look at after this, very close.
Wow.
But yeah, Nunaviller sold it regardless.
Yeah,
that was pretty
she
good.
did.
And she turned, and all of that momentum and the excitement was given to her team.
Yeah, she certainly thought it was in. Margie Ray continuing to review. This would be a big turnaround point-wise for Minnesota if Hugh McCutcheon can win this one. It will completely turn this around. They're going to say that it was in. So that tip was in. She's over talking to Hugh McCutcheon. He does not agree with it. But she's going to say yes, it was. And now we're at match point, Oregon. And Vanderweide with the long serve, and we're tied up again. Oh, untimely.
Just misses that back line, and now each team has another chance to kind of fight back and earn this.
Donna Rollins is back to serve. She's been big in this set. Brasky back set, Stone, but the double block by Minnesota. That play has worked all match long, except for right then and there, the block.
Yeah, but you could see how tight, watch how tight this is going to the net. And since it wasn't pushed out, dying inside, Ronica Stone for her to hammer it, that was a well-formed block from Minnesota. Nowhere to go, but straight down.
Set point, Minnesota. And missing is Lauren Page, and set number 3 goes to Minnesota. And we will have a set 4 here at Stanford. We'll have it for you. Don't go anywhere right after this.
Third set. Yeah. You know, we saw the second one where Minnesota was kind of shaking their heads. How'd that happen? And in the third, Oregon almost came back and stole it from them as well. Those last 5 points of every single set have been just crazy.
Set 4 underway, and the first point will go to the Ducks.
And we've started to see how each setter has gotten a little more comfortable in their rhythm. You know, we're remembering this is preseason games, and the players are, although a lot are returning, are playing next to each other maybe for the first time. And so it's fun to see them get that relationship going. And you saw it right there again with Morgan hammering that ball, that quick set. The middle and the setter relationship takes longer to develop because you have such a smaller room for error.
Seliger Swinson, she has been good for Minnesota. There's that block. Hands right over. It was Taylor Morgan, number 12.
Taylor Morgan again. You know, a lot of times we had these big middles that were a little, you know, lumbering and maybe a little slower but powerful. And now we're kind of going into recognizing that these maybe smaller middles that are really quick, moving laterally, find a way to get the ball down and do a nice job there.
The ball just ping-ponging off of Ducks, and it ends up going over, but a big swing and a finish and kill from Samity.
Samity with the hammer just attacking the defense. That ball bouncing off of legs, feet, anything.
Pass off the mark. Rasky gets a hand on it, though. Hart with the big swing. The block gets a piece. Willow Johnson with a big swing as well. And in the middle, it's Taylor Morgan. We haven't seen him go to her a lot, but she's been very effective when they have.
Well, the transition ball on both sides of the court really has gone up a notch as these teams attacking well, even out of system, getting that ball to their middle quick, even when that passes off the net, off of a dig especially.
Again, wiping up some sweat on the Oregon Ducks side. Soliger Swinson, Minnesota up 4-1. Tough pass to handle. There's Nunaviller to save it. Free ball to Minnesota. Samity just quick enough before Oregon could get set.
And off a free ball play, you could see that the already very fast offense from Minnesota speeds up even more. They run those free ball plays very, very quick. That quick red all the way to the antenna for Samity. She's able to get that kill, and Minnesota has come out on fire in this fourth set.
Yeah, much different focus and look by Minnesota in this one, as finally one of the best swings we've seen from Samit Gill this entire match.
It's really clean play right there. You can see Rasky setting that all the way out to the antenna, allowing Gill a ton of court to hit into. She elects to hit right down the line.
23 starts a season ago. Coming into this match, second in the nation in hitting percentage at .541. But they've had other options here in this one. Vander Weide off the block. Johnson had to take some off and slices it down.
Are you kidding me? Who could read that? I don't know how she was able to get that angle. That was nuts. What a swing from Willow Johnson. Right along the tape. Just dislodged her shoulder.
I think that one went off her pinky. Sliding it right over. She's having quite a match so far, is Willow Johnson. The lefty, daughter of Major League Hall of Famer Randy Johnson. But I love how she's taking on a bigger leadership role this year. Tough serve. Johnson off the block, big swing. A little different look from the last one.
Well, and that play right there is something Oregon loves to do, right? You run Samit Gill on the quick back one, drawing both blockers, and then you've got the 1-2 punch with the double quick. But if you can't get the ball up to the net in the perfect spot, even, pulled over, it's not going to work.
Wow, Taylor Morgan. The quickness and athleticism of her.
She is up quick, she elevates so well, and she can find those angles. Hammer.
Some emotion from Minnesota. They are feeling much better after their comeback in set 3. Rollins hard off the block and will take it.
The levels raised so much in this fourth set versus even the first set, where some balls were falling, miscommunications, some unforced errors. Right now, every single point that these teams earn is hard fought and earned.
Deep serve, Vander Weide takes it and gets it right back. Stone back in.
Vanderweide passing that ball way back. She was pushed back almost to the corner, and she's still able to come up with the kill.
Rollins. Tough pass to handle, and it's Morgan who's there.
That ball going really tight to the net. I think if Rasky had been there to maybe jump, she would have been called for over, because that ball was a little right there on the plane, but it's just too tough to handle. And these players are hitting with such cannons that it's so hard defensively to absorb it enough to keep it on your side.
Speaking of absorb, they are using the towels and the squeegees this time on Minnesota's side, but it might have been the Oregon players who slid over. I'm not sure.
Well, that's what's great. You're fighting for every single point. You are working hard, and it should be. You've got two of the top teams in the country battling it out.
Miscue there off of that serve. The service ace going to McGraw.
Good float serve. Van Sickle can't decide if she should take it with her hands or with her forearms.
Second ace of the match for McGraw, and her 7th on the season. Big swing from Johnson to get it back.
And there's that play as well, running the middle behind the setter, drawing the blockers. And you see Willow Johnson, she can either go on the right side of the middle or come in on the inside. And that just wreaks havoc when you are a blocker, because you can't line up.
Yeah, that's something she's really worked on in the offseason as well. And Coach Olmo told us, she said she really likes moving around. She likes going to different spots now, and it's paying off.
Well, I think when you're a lefty, it's already tough to read as a blocker and defender, but couple that with a very quick, athletic lefty who can move well, and that pass is in there. It's deadly.
Tough serve from Tasted. Vanderweide, but McGraw is there. Rollins into the double block. The Ducks taking care of business at the net.
Terrific effort, and you see how these teams have learned each other's tendencies. Before, you know, in the first set we saw that tip of Oregon's going right over the block and going down, and now you've got 3 different players reading that and running through, popping that up. Tremendous job by both sides to make adjustments, to learn as the match has progressed.
Both teams blocking very well. 8 blocks for Minnesota, 7 for Oregon. It's been a big factor in this one. Trying the dump. We saw a couple of those work for Seliger Swinson earlier. That one doesn't, but the tip from Samity does.
And the only way that tip's going to go down is if you have established that you are going to hammer the ball almost every time, and then you could see her cock back like she's going to swing, and then at the last second shows tip.
Cleaning up the court once again. Stephanie Samity waiting to. It was a warm day here in Stanford. It's up in the high 80s, mid to high 80s. They're working up a sweat. It's been a hard-fought match to kick off this Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge. Oregon's first year to jump into it. Going to be a great 4 years of competition between these teams. Kind of a side swing from Vanderweide, and it goes in.
But where Vanderweide is most successful is when she continues to hit high and hard and deep. That back line has been so good to her all night.
Ducks bring in Taylor Borup, number 17, transfer from North Carolina. Haven't seen her this match. And she's there at the net, but cannot finish. Junior from Leesburg, Virginia. She's had a little bit of a dinged up elbow, and so she hasn't really been 100% yet, but physical presence for the Ducks. There is Stone. Stone cold.
Well, and that play again, that's a tight set. And the only way that didn't get blocked is because Stone got on it so quick and was so fast that the block didn't have time to close in. And that's really the best ball, right? When you've got a ball that's almost set over the net and nothing but air in front of you.
Seliger-Swinson takes that one over. She tried to do it earlier and they stopped her.
Well, I like that choice because she's on the move. She's moving along the net. She finds that seam and takes advantage of that motion.
And Pittman with the serve into the net, gives it right back to the Ducks. Grasky back to serve. Boy, another quick one in the middle to Taylor Morgan. She's up above everybody.
She's up above everyone, and Seliger-Swinson, because in the play previously, as a setter, she had dumped. Now you're in the middle blockers' heads, and so you wait with the setter a little bit, and that opens up your middle. Really smart setting.
Slow start for Minnesota, hitting, coming into this one, hitting .310. Their block just continuing to do damage. They're hitting up in the .331 range now.
Well, that's tough for Borup to come in, you know, off the bench. Here it is in set 4 against the #1 team. You got to get in and go to it.
Samit Gill with the kill.
Samit Gill has a very sharp cross court on her slide. Different than Ronica Stone, who tends to hit maybe down the line or seam.
She turned on that last one so quickly. Good serve from Van Sickle. And once again, Alexis Hart just didn't quite get herself turned, a little too far off, and Oregon chipping away back in this.
Well, we know it's not going to get really juicy until these teams hit 20 points. They just kind of play with each other and take it up to 11, past the 20-point mark.
Service error, point to Minnesota. A 3-point Minnesota lead. They're trying to push it to 5. We'll see if they can do it right after this.
There's a new season ahead of us. The slate's been wiped clean, and only you can dictate what happens next. What happens next is when it starts to count. So make it count. This is next level. This is happening. This is your destiny, and there's no avoiding it. Expectations don't matter. Reputation doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is what comes next.
Play hard. Play with passion.
Play together.
Play on your ass tonight, man. Let's go. Get in the moment now. Let's go. Players make plays.
Players make games.
Yeah, baby. Let's get it done.
I want everybody hitting somebody, man.
They're going to come at you right now. That's what I'm talking about.
3rd and long. It's hot. Back to throw. Downfield, going to the end zone.
Watch on Pac-12 networks.
Back at Stanford, a 3-point Minnesota lead in set 4. They are trying to push it to a 5th as Oregon took the first 2 sets. And then a comeback by Minnesota pushed this one to a 4th, and they have been hitting well in this set. 348, or the 4th set rather, but both teams hitting well. 300 for Oregon, you're thinking that's pretty good, right? But 348, just a little bit better, and really the block starting to stand out. Just blocking just a bit more are the Golden Gophers.
Well, I think just the level of play from, you know, first serve of the match until now has just been a dramatic increase as these teams have gotten to know each other better. They've made adjustments. They've each raised their level, and it's been such a fun match to watch.
Minnesota, they had been at home for all of their preseason up to this point, their first road trip, and not only their first road trip, but their first ranked opponent. So this the toughest competition that they've really seen so far. They'd only given up 1 set coming into this one, and for Oregon, a couple of ranked foes early on, and playing at home for several matches. And then you come into this challenge and you see the cream of the crop all around you. Lauren Barnes, Vanderweide, there's that block again. Johnson tries to tip it over them, and she does. Veronica Stone will come back in.
Johnson again coming back, getting off, working hard on transition to get behind. And then just ekes that one in.
Van Sickle doing a nice job in the back row. And even though she's not quite 100%, you'd never know it. She's doing a little bit of everything for them. Vanderweide with the tip. Rollins, she's everywhere. Nuneviller getting hands on it. Tip in the middle, and that one hung up there for quite some time, but just nobody there for Minnesota.
Oh, but when you put that right over the blocker, you couldn't pick a spot on the floor that has players further from it, right? Everyone is kind of surrounding you. She puts it so close to the blocker. Great shot from Stone.
Morgan in the middle. She's really been the go-to in this set.
Well, I love how Morgan elevates. She goes straight up, and then she can chip at either, a cross-court shot or wrist away, depending on the block in front of her, and does a nice job to have that court sense.
Johnson with the tip. Rollins tries to keep it alive, and she does. Wow, but then Stone. I love the emotion.
She took advantage of Pittman, who had released and gotten stuck on the left side, and so there was nobody in the middle.
Beautiful play from Veronica Stone. Pittman trying to use the block. No touch. It's wide, and now Oregon tying it up.
Momentum shifting to Oregon's favor, but we're still tied up, and Minnesota just needs a quick side out here. Pittman needs that ball a little higher to get a kill.
What a powerful swing down the line. Rollins.
How fun is Rollins? We saw her kind of come on in set 3 where she hammered ball after ball there on the outside. Doesn't matter what kind of blocks in front of her. She is fearless, and she has a cannon.
Just a freshman. Slide to Stone, that one wide. They're gonna ask for the touch, and yeah, the overrule. And it will go to Oregon. Hugh McCutcheon up. Asking, did you touch? And I think
she
he
said
oh,
yes.
Okay. So a shoelace by McGraw needing to be attended to. And on the other side, Oregon tying it up again. And Lauren Page will come back in.
So Page had been out earlier in set 4, as we saw Borup come in, and now Page coming back in this set. We're gonna do a shoe change completely.
Yeah. A shoe
substitution.
Technical difficulties for Cece McGraw, who has really impressed today. Freshman libero from Prior Lake, Minnesota. She was Miss Baden Volleyball for the top player in Minnesota coming in.
And look for that ball outside to Rollins for Minnesota.
Stone has to tip it. Bump set to Rollins. Vanderwide out of the back, and she has to tip it. The block finding Rollins that time. Rasky, good read. Off the head of the block of Pittman, and now Oregon with a 1-point lead. If Rasky doesn't hit that one potentially would have dropped for certain.
Right.
Good reaction by Taylor Rasky.
It is, and I think this is a good scoring rotation for Oregon because Minnesota's struggling to come up with an offense that can put the ball away.
Bit of a slide for Pittman, and tied up once again.
Yeah, you split the offense. This is the first time we've seen Pittman run behind the setter in this fourth set, but she's pretty good off one foot.
Rollins serves it deep. Roll shot from Page. Pittman, and a solo block from Veronica Stone. Those feel good, don't they?
They do, and I think that really bailed Oregon out because we saw just maybe too many times going to the roll shot. Minnesota able to transition it. Stone steps in, takes in that wrist away.
Hart. Rasky trying to joust, trying to save it, and can't. Pittman was there. And Rasky was just trying to get her players out of the way, and she's got to ask for the squeegee.
Of course, and look, tied up. Here we are, end of set 4.
You said it.
Exactly where we've been all other sets. These two teams playing so hard, and it has come down to the wire. And so really it kind of comes down to what rotation are you in at the end of the set. And for Oregon, they definitely want Veronica Stone up front at the end of this set. She's rotated to the back. And anytime Minnesota has Rollins up there, or obviously Samedi, that's who they want to go to. But Taylor Morgan also rotating into the front row is good for Minnesota.
Oh yeah, she's been good, and now it's Lauren Page using the block to her advantage. Willow Johnson back into the front row. Oregon up to 20. Hart. Gill, but a net violation. Sumit Gill's had a tough time staying out of the net today, and that's a tough one as it ties it up at 20.
Good transition opportunity.
Oh, and just a fingertip.
Too tight.
Yeah.
She didn't have much time out of to get a lot of transition opportunity. She just had to jump. She didn't get off the net very well.
Back set, Johnson was hanging, but a little miscue. And it was Taylor Morgan on the other side, and now a 1-point lead for Minnesota.
And that's 2 plays from Oregon just right off the bat where miscommunications really hurt them.
Double block, sending it back from Lauren Page. They'll go to Page again, this time Samedi getting a hand on it. Johnson, enough on it off the block to tie it back up.
Good blocking from Minnesota to put 2 well-formed blockers in front. But credit Oregon for attacking antenna to antenna, really moving that ball along to try to open up a seam.
And Sickle with the service. Hart right at the block. Vanderwide, a tough one, has to tip it. Pretty up from Vanderwide on that one. Pancake, Minnesota, what a rally. And Sickle out of the back, tries to roll it over. Samedi straight down.
What a play. Minnesota earning every single bit of that point. You can see Samity working so hard. She's breathing hard. You see her on each half of the court. She has to hustle back, get up for a block, and then get off to transition to get that kill. What an effort on both sides of the floor.
Minnesota up by 1. But not for long as Johnson ties it back up.
Johnson took a big, long arm swing, drawing that back for maximum power.
Johnson asking for the tip. They're going to give it to him. And now Oregon is up by 1, 23-22. Trying to finish this off in 4, and Hugh McCutcheon wants a timeout.
How fun. All 4 of these sets has been this score. Coming down to those last 2 points. All these coaches talked about, we want to see how our team is at critical points. Well, here you go, coaches. You know, you get to see how your team plays when everything's on the line, when your back's against the wall, when you have to get out there and execute.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Amy, that no matter what happens here, the things that both of these teams are learning and taking from this and how they're handling a scenario like this, the pressures that are on them on both sides and how they're responding, I would say both coaches have to be pretty happy. They've both had great scenarios.
Yeah, they've seen a variety of situations. Can we win when we're up? Can we finish? Can we come back when we're down and continue to fight? So a lot of data coming out of this match, and it's pretty fun to watch too.
It absolutely is. Both teams hitting very well at 256 for Minnesota this set, and then 295 this set for Oregon. Just a little bit better hitting. The blocking has really helped Minnesota out as they're out blocking Oregon by a couple. But so close is this match.
And these players are taking a ton of swings. 62 kills as a team for Minnesota, 73 for Oregon. Just working so hard, and a lot of these outside hitters especially are taking 4 or 5 swings in one rally alone.
There are the numbers for Ronica Stone, and she has been so good. 18 kills, hitting 600. She's got 5 digs, she's got 5 blocks.
And she's in the front row right now for Oregon. Couldn't be a better place to finish this set for them.
You said it, that's where they want her. That's where she is. Anna Viller to serve. Rollins. Asking for a touch is Minnesota, and they will say no. And Hugh McCutcheon saying, I might as well
you got to go
have
for
you
it
take a
there.
look at this.
It was definitely close.
Yeah, this will be a big deal. I could kind of see Willow Johnson go over to the huddle and say, I didn't touch anything, so we'll see. We'll see if they did or not. That could change things big time, because right now we are at match point for Oregon, but if this gets turned around.
It is very, very close. And that's a tough one, you know.
Yeah.
You talk about the backs against the wall, tough play, and our referees have had their fair share of that in these tight situations. Comes down to the last point. We've seen that a lot this season already.
Yeah, Margie Ray with the review. Kaylee Kimura, our other official here in this one. And awaiting that. So for Oregon, they will turn right around and play number 5 Penn State tomorrow. And Minnesota will get a little bit of a breather. They will wait a day and then face Stanford on Sunday in this challenge. And for Hugh McCutcheon's team, they'll head back home. They'll stay at home, and then they'll have to hit Big Ten play. It won't be long, a couple of regular non-conference matches, and then you get into conference play. But guess who they're going to kick off with? Penn State in the Big Ten. So both of these teams getting a chance to take a peek. So this call's going to stay, no touch. And originally it didn't look like it in real time, but it was so close. And now we're at match point. And Willow Johnson saying, let's do this right now. Nunaviller with the serve.
Great pass.
Tip out of bounds, and it goes to Minnesota, so they hang in this one.
Clutch play right there, Minnesota getting that ball back, and they've got to put a well-formed block right here in the three-hitter situation for Oregon.
Match point number 3. Stone. You had to figure they were going to call that one. And number 18, Oregon, pulls the upset over number 1, Minnesota. Big-time win for Matt Ulmer and the Oregon Ducks.
What a play on both sides of the floor. We saw each team getting better and better as the match progressed, and it was a fight down to the wire. An incredible match, especially in this preseason, to have both these teams playing at such a high level.
I mean, those sets, look at those numbers, almost identical in how they faced one another every single time, the comebacks, the back and forth, but finally the finish for the Oregon Ducks. They will definitely be moving up if they continue to roll. Well, they're going to face Penn State tomorrow. We appreciate you being with us. Don't go anywhere. Number 4, Stanford, and number 5, Penn State. We're going to have it for you. We're going to continue the challenge right after this. Thanks for being with us here for this first one. Doubleheader number 2 right after this on Pac-12 Network.